man looked toward the heavens and was promised more descendants than stars in the sky. He was a man of great faith, deemed righteous by God. He was very old, and he had no heir, no son to continue in his family's name. It was his deepest desire to have a child, but he knew with each year passing by, the chance of his wife bearing him a son became dimmer and dimmer. It was in his old age that God promised him not merely a son, but God promised this man descendants that would be too numerous to count. We read in the Bible about this old man and what God did through his descendants. We read about others who also had the desire for a child, and we read about how God uses families and descendants to accomplish his perfect will. God is a God of past and posterity. The purpose of our Grandparents' Day festivities are twofold here at Annapolis Christian Academy. First and most importantly, we look to the Bible as our guide on all things. And all throughout the scriptures, it is emphasized that as God's children, we too must be people of past and posterity. We must never forget that we stand on the shoulders of those who have come before us, and we know that we must never forget that not only do we have a duty and obligation to continue what has been taught to our generation, but we must also have a duty and an obligation then to teach our own children. Additionally, at Annapolis Christian Academy, we do not hide what it is we are teaching your students. Grandparents' Day is a way for you, those who have come before us, to come inside our halls and to see and hear things we are teaching your grandchildren. We unapologetically stand on the truths of God, and our deepest desire and mission is to come alongside the parents at Annapolis to assist with the raising of virtuous men and women who also unapologetically stand on the truths of God. Within our halls, you will find a dedicated staff who understands the importance of past and posterity. Within our halls is also a staff who understands the dire nature of the times we live in. We know there is a very real fight between good and evil, unfolding before our eyes, a fight for the truth of the stories of those who have come before us, as well as a fight for the hearts and souls of the generations to come. We all watch the news and hear stories of how children are the target for those who seek to change our culture. These social influencers know very well that it is through education that the heart of a human can be molded. They know that to change the generations to come, you must get to a child as early as possible to mold their hearts into what they want the next generation to become. And they know that once a child is brought up in a particular education system, the undoing of the molding of the heart is very hard to accomplish. This mission of the current education system did not happen overnight. It began well over 100 years ago. It was systematic and it was effective. The social influencers who wanted to change the culture did not hide their mission. They made it known that they would change the fundamental nature of Western civilization through a systematic removal of truth, goodness, beauty, and God from the classroom. They also made it known that they would do away with the teachings of our ancestors, even changing the stories passed down to us. Although the tactics of evil were effective and strong, a counter-movement began. A movement called classical Christian education emerged. This movement knew what the social influencers knew, that education is far more than college and career readiness. The classical movement began to build brick and mortar schools that would reject the modern education system and instead go back in time to when education was a means to teach a human being right from wrong, virtue, and the truths of God. Annapolis Christian Academy is part of that classical movement. The movement has grown, and many parents have awakened to the fight for our children. The classical movement has created a form of education that puts God and his truths first and holds the formation of the human soul very high. Above grades, skills, and test scores, the classical education system holds high a life dedicated to virtue. We believe that it is our duty to our students and parents to assist in the raising up of virtuous men and women that will flourish in whatever God calls them to do. For they have not been merely taught skills, but they have been taught what it means to be an image bearer of Christ. So how do we educate our children to bear this image well? We immerse your children and grandchildren in the most beautiful, good, and truthful things we can immerse them in. We expose them to the great conversation from Western culture, and through their time here, they will become a part of that conversation. As they grow in maturity and reasoning abilities, they will learn, dialogue, and argue about topics such as the cost of freedom, why it is you cannot define your own truth, and that at Annapolis, truth is only defined by God. We begin this great conversation as early as our preschool age. We do not have our children in preschool arguing about objective versus subjective truths, but we do immerse them in truth, goodness, and beauty in all things. In our classrooms, as early as 3 years old, our students are taught to know the Word of God through the reading of the scriptures and the teaching of hymns. They are exposed to the richest literature and poetry and nursery rhymes and songs that we can offer them. They memorize these nursery rhymes and songs to build their language skills. And we bring to life for them literature that teaches them the deep truth of God through story and their imagination. And most important, they are taught that a heart that loves God is far more valuable than any treasure this world has to offer. In a few moments, you will see our pre-K3 and pre-K4 students come on stage to give you a glimpse of what they are learning. Please remember the things they will be saying and singing are what they are currently learning. So the goal of this performance is not perfection for our own pleasure, but the purpose of today is to give a snapshot into the inside of a classroom. After our performance, we will give you an opportunity to enjoy fellowship and refreshments, and during that time, we will encourage you to walk our halls and go into our classrooms and see the beauty of what your grandchildren are learning. Lastly, I want to thank you for giving us this opportunity to be a part of your family's life. And thank you, grandparents, for the hard work you have put into your own family. We know your grandchildren have come to us not by our own merit, but because of the seeds you have already planted into your family. So thank you for the blessing of being a part of your family's story. Thank you, Preschool. That was not easy. Some of those songs are very rich words, and for young children who are learning language in general, these are not easy songs to sing, but we raise the bar and we have them come up to it. And so they did a wonderful job. Thank you so much, Preschool. At this time, how we will do this is we will leave Preschool 4 on stage. After we are done here, I will introduce our staff. After I'm done with that, you can take a picture. Once the picture is done with pre-K 4, you may come up on the stage and grab your child, and then you may head to the cafe where we have coffee and refreshments. Once pre-K 4 is off the stage, then pre-K 3 may come back on the stage to take a photo if you did not already get one. And then again, once the photo is done, I ask you to come on stage to get them because little ones running off can be, well, catastrophic. So, thank you again. I do want to introduce my amazing staff. They truly work so hard with these children, and this program would not be here if it wasn't for them. And so, in pre-K 3, we have Ms. Caitlin McGehee. We have Mrs. Karen Drumright. We have Mrs. Anastasia Lemos. And we have a new staff member who has joined us this week for our impending baby that is on the way with Mrs. Lemos. Her name is Mrs. Sara E. Sanchez. In pre-K 4, we have Mrs. Sandra Torres. We have Miss Victoria Cortez. We have Mrs. Nancy Hodgkin, who is not here this morning. And we have Miss Ashley Sanchez. Thank you, staff, for all you do. At this time, boys and girls, at this time, pre-K 4 families, you may take their photo.